Townsend. The United States Air Force, actually it was the Army Air Force when I got in. I was in the 13th Air Force and the 20th Air Force in World War II, okay? 13th Air Force was in the South Pacific and 20th Air Force was in the Mariana Islands, Guam. I think 7 battle stars for the first, you got the Legion of Merit and the Distinguished Flying Cross and Air Medal, and B-17s and B-29s. My grandfather, on my father's side, was in the Civil War. He got his legs shot off in the First Battle of Manassas, and my father was in the Spanish-American War. And a barnstormer came through there that had a Waco and an open cockpit airplane, and we got a ride in it, and that made up my mind right there. The government came out with a program to get people interested in aviation, and they would give you, if you were a sophomore in college, they would let you, they'd give you a private pilot's license. But I got the private pilot's license in 1940, ROTC in college, of course, and I was in the Holster-on Field Artillery, and I went home after the sophomore year and told them I was going to quit college and go to flying school, and they said, "Why don't we do that for?" And I said, "There's a war coming, and I want to be in airplanes." So I was in flying school when the war started. We had gone to a movie before we went back to the base, and they put a thing on the screen that said Pearl Harbor had been attacked. And fortunately, one of the boys that was with us knew where Pearl Harbor was. Nobody else knew where it was. I went to Victorville, California for advanced. And then from there, I went to Sebring, Florida for B-17 transition. I knew that I was going to go to bombers probably because they sent me to a twin engine for advanced flying school. Very famous World War II airplane. It has 4 engines and has turrets on it and gunners, and a navigator and a bombardier and a radio operator and 2 pilots. It was a heavy bomber. 10,000 B-17s built during World War II, and we lost 5,000 of them in combat. The Battle of Guadalcanal was a very pivotal battle. It's really the first time we turned the Japanese around. And they were building a base there. The Japanese were building a base. And so the initial Marine landing was very, very easy by comparison. But the Japanese saw what we were doing, and they moved everything in there. And really, they had control of Iron Bottom Bay there. And we managed to lose 42 capital ships in that thing. And that battle went on for a whole year almost. We were, at that particular time, flying out of a 40. We went up there to bomb some transports that were coming in. We were trying to knock out their air bases. I came back to the United States and went through B-29 transition and then went back over to Guam. Well, it was twice as big, it'd go twice as far, and carry twice as bomb load. B-17 was a grand old lady, and the B-29 you had to pay attention. It would bite you. We made landfall in a highly populated area, and there was another raid going on in there, and it was Yokohama, and there was a lot of flak at night. I went back to Wright Field, and I was in flight test. I got in flight test, and I did the B-36 and the B-50 and the B-47 and B-52. First service pilots that fly the airplanes. It was dangerous enough that all the streets at Edwards Air Force Base were named for pilots that were killed there. It was a combination. We didn't have the instrumentation in those days that they have now. And so we had to do a lot of things before it was all checked out on the ground. He's got to be an excellent pilot to start with. And then he's got to want to do things the first time. I mean, and that gives you a pleasure. It's into the unknown, and it's a real challenge. And what he really has to be able to do is to describe, fly an airplane, and be able to describe what the airplane does. Not what the airplane should do, but what it does. And then work with the engineers on the fix. B-45, B-46, B-48, B-47, of course. It was a golden days of flight test. I did it from 1946 for 10 years, and then in 1955 I went to Strategic Air Command, and then right from there to Omaha to Strategic Air Command, and then right back into flight test as a test director on the B-70. And that tour lasted for 5 years, and it was Air Force Base. I ended up as the wing commander of the flight test wing. I call it the Stay Alive Society. And a bunch of the pilots got together. They discovered that in the last year, if they had been talking between each other, they could have saved about 7 airplanes. Strategic Air Command was their mission was to be sure that the Russians never got here, and that's what the bombers were all about, and that's what the B-47s were about. That's what the B-52 was about. We had a airplane. The code name was Spectre, which was a C-130. It had guns all over it, and you could shoot at targets on the ground with tremendous accuracy. And we had the first FLIR, which was the first forward-looking IR that we had. And so we built some more of them, and we deployed them before all the tests were done on the dang airplanes. And they got all screwed up over there in the 7th Air Force trying to maintain this airplane. And I was in charge of a team that goes over to fix the airplanes. And I went to work for Boeing then, 1970. I was our program manager, and I did things like the 747 that carries the space shuttle, and command post airplanes, and I was involved in a presidential airplane too. Called me up, my 4-star boss, I was a colonel, called me up and he says, "Guy," says, "you know, Lyndon Johnson made a mistake today." And I said, "What's that, sir?" And he says, "He made you a general officer." And he says, "But you got to remember it's temporary." Well, I got a whole way of life. I got a living, but I got a whole way of life, and it was very exciting, and I had lots of fun. And apparently they were reasonably happy with my performance. Made me a general officer. I gave up flying 2 years ago when I got macular degeneration. It's 3-dimensional. It's not just 2-dimensional, and it's a challenge to get an airplane to do exactly what you want it to do. It's not boring like driving a car. I think I've had a very good life. I'm not an unhappy old man.